This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, you know, this doesn't happen often where I have somebody request to come on my show. You know, usually I have to do the reaching out. But, you know, I've had various YouTube personalities come on my show, from Andrew Lewis, the Shitflix critic. I've had Brad Jones, the cinema snob, and Troy Elke. And, well, I've got another one on with me today, Trey Olds. How do you do, Trey?
I'm very well, Greg. How are you?
I am doing great. You know, it's interesting, you know, because we kind of started communicating last night, and I was flattered of your interest in my show because, you know, I'm just a volunteer, and I do this because I enjoy it, but I'm always appreciative when somebody, you know, enjoys my show, and because really, it's like, who am I, you know? But I gotta say, I was flattered. So how did you discover my show?
Well, YouTube. I found your show by coincidence, I guess, on YouTube. I found one of the tribute interviews you did with the daughter of actress Nancy Parsons, that's known who played the gym teacher on Porky's.
Yep.
So that's the first video I found. Then I, got on your channel and found some others, and they're very good. So I'm glad to be a part of your show, and you did some good interviews. So I'm glad to be a part of your show, and very glad you're doing what you're doing.
Well, I enjoy it very much, and I know that you also have your own YouTube channel. Give it a plug on here.
Okay, it's the Trey Olds radio show. Now, it's not really a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is one of the sources where people can find it, but that's not the main source. But YouTube is primarily the main way I can send links to people, you know. But it's the Trey Olds radio show. I interview actors, singers, comedians, all kind of people in the entertainment industry and other industries like writing or any sort of creativity job. And I've been doing that since 2013. And before that, I played music for 2.5 years. I was a disc jockey. I played all kind of old music, classics, jazz, country, rock, all kind of the goodies. And besides that, I'm also an actor and a voice actor, so my career has kind of fluctuated through all the different points, but it mainly comes back to the radio show.
What film roles have you done? You mentioned voice work and whatnot. Anything that of note that you want to bring up?
Nothing big. I do just a few self-independent projects or some lesser-known animated work I've done. You know, it ended up on YouTube, and mostly my voice work is just my regular voice, just me for narrations or just some independent or lesser-known commercials. But I've done some character voice work, but not many. I would like to do more, but I'm happy with what I can get at the time.
Well, you've been at this, I've been here at the station since 2005, but I just started the podcast in 2015. You've been at yours since 2013. Talk about your radio show. I'm very curious.
Sure. Well, I started when I was 13. I was always fascinated with acting and radio and comedy and television and all that, and ever since I was a little kid. And as I got older, I wanted to do something along those lines. I said, well, I want to do that, make people laugh or be informative to certain topics or So when I was around 13, I met somebody in Louisiana, which is where I'm from, in Louisiana, United States. And he was a radio host in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and a voice actor. He did the voice of Scooby-Doo for a while in a few movies. His name's Scott Ennis.
Okay.
And I met him by coincidence, I guess. It wasn't planned or anything. And through those years and months, we kind of became friends, and he kind of mentored me in becoming a voice actor. And he said, well, you should try your radio show, do a radio show, and because you have a unique voice. And I said, okay. But before I interviewed people, I did music, like I said, and I did that for around 2.5 years. And then it kind of got a little boring. You know, I didn't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. So I transitioned to interviews, talk radio. And that was very fun. It was also a challenge because I started in, disc jockey. I didn't really talk much. But now I'm talking a lot, interviewing people. And so that was fun. It was challenging. And my first interview was Scott Ennis, the guy who got me started in the business.
Okay.
And through this, I have interviewed him again, and I went on his show, and he interviewed me. And I've interviewed a lot of people. I say probably I've interviewed over 150 people, and might be more than that, might be less. It's hard to keep track. But so yeah, it's I enjoy it very much. It's challenging, as I said, because it's new, but also because I have autism. So you have to, with people with autism, they have to learn more specifically, and they have to work at their own pace. But I adapted fairly well, and I'm still going interviewing to this day. And I took a break from interviewing. I'm just starting back. I took a break about 4 months ago because due to health issues, I had to take a break, be on a hiatus. But I'm just getting back started with interviews, and I have a lot scheduled for next month, and a lot for beginning of 2020. So I'd love to keep busy.
Let's talk about autism for a minute. When did you get that?
I was diagnosed with autism when I was 3.
Okay.
There are many ranges of autism on the spectrum. I'm I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism, and some people call it Asperger's syndrome. And when I was 3, my parents knew I was acting a little different, than other kids that age, and they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know if I was just 3, just terrible twos or blah, And they brought me to a doctor, and they said, well, he has autism. Well, my family didn't really know much about autism. This was back in 2003. And so you really didn't know a lot about autism or Asperger's. So I was back to the doctors and hospitals back and forth. They thought I had bipolar and all kind of other stuff. And then I got a solid diagnosis, and I was put on great medication and stuff when I was 9. I was diagnosed when I was 3, but it was just all a bunch of back and forth, whatnot. And when I was 9, I went to Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas, and that's where they said, you have high-functioning autism. We're going to take you off the medicine they put you on for being bipolar, which you're not. And so that's where everything sort of fell into place and calmed down. And I knew I was different with the autism. And, of course, in school there's bullies. But you have to look past that, if you let bullies keep you down, you're going to be down and negative, and how is that going to help you You have to stay positive. Look for the joys in life,
So how do you cope with autism now in your daily life?
Well, it's really the norm to me because I've been diagnosed for so long, but you're always adapting. I'm someone that is not good with change. I always have to adapt very slowly to change, and because my mind scatters, but I have a good coping mechanisms, and I just try to stay calm and look at the joys and positives on life, and because it's not good to focus on all the negative stuff because it just interferes with your work or your passions in life, and that's no fun. Life is and there are challenges in life, but you're supposed to have fun in life and have to overcome the challenges. And this can be said with people without special needs or autism. This can be said in general, but people with autism, they think a little bit differently. But I believe, and I've met a lot of people with autism, they're very, very creative. And so they have that talent and trait, creative, and once they put their mind to something, they do it. And usually I find people with autism, they look beyond just look or react differently to what people without autism see, which I think is very interesting. People with autism, they are meant to be something special. They're on this earth to do something that people without autism, I don't think, can see. But it's interesting. Very interesting.
Well, you definitely keep yourself busy, and it seems to me that you got a lot of talents and interests in different areas. Let's go back to the DJing here for a second, I know a lot of DJs here in the city, and what kind of music did you were most fond of playing?
Oh, I like them all. Well, I'm from Louisiana, so that aspect, you have the jazz and especially the Cajun music. Mm-hmm. So I played a lot of that. And some country and rock and roll. I didn't really play too much hip-hop or rap. I'm not really into that. But I played all kinds, and I talked about the song when it was released and the artist just performed it, and it was interesting. I did it for 2.5 years, and occasionally I have a friend who has a radio show in Indiana, and he'll ask me to be a co-host or a substitute co-host and fill in for him. And I did that a few years ago, and sometimes he'll call me, and I'll do it occasionally these days. But it was a variety show, and I did the music on that. So my name gets around sometimes. I'm not really big, but, it's good to have your name around, and networking and connections. That's great. The more people the more work you get, so that's very fun. I'm always keeping busy, if not with music or interviews, it's other stuff. I like the acting or the voice acting, and I do other stuff. I paint and write and all kind of creativity stuff I do, so I'm always busy doing something.
Who are some of your favorite musicians?
Well, as I said, I like the older country, so Johnny Cash was a good one.
Yep.
Hank Williams Sr., Hank Williams Jr., and some of the classics, I like, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra. There was a guy in Louisiana, he's deceased now, but he was a good singer. His name was Fats Domino. He did a lot of jazz and Cajun music, and he was a good one. And so then, all the classics or the older stuff I'm more interested in, and I like some of the new stuff, but as I said, I'm hard to accept change, so I'm always with the older stuff.
Talk about some of the concerts you've been at.
Well, I don't really do a lot of conventions or concerts. I've been asked to do a few, but as a radio host and stuff. But traveling, because I'm in Mississippi, and a lot of them are in California or Texas, and for me, traveling is an issue at times, and because I can't drive, I have bad eyesight. If I drive, I'll probably end up causing a wreck or a head-on collision or something. But
you won't fly?
But no, I don't fly. I'm afraid to fly, and probably one day in the future, I'll get around and do it.
Okay.
Because you never say never, there's always opportunities.
Well, it took me 45 years before I got in a plane, and it was like, I enjoyed it. Yeah, people say flying, your first time flying, it's a bit rough, but after your first flight, you get used to it. And, so maybe one day, I'll fly if I ever have to go to California or New York or maybe Canada. Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned before your voice. You do have a very comedic sounding voice, and I mean that in a good way. And I think that when you was addressed about that, I think especially for voice work, that comes in handy.
Oh yeah, people. When my first voice role, it was just a narration, but they voice test you and put you in a category. And they said my voice can be fit for. They didn't really say high pitch, but a more squeakish or just a unique voice. And they said I probably fit in to voice an imp or a leprechaun or an elf or so. I have that sort of voice. And which I found very funny. I prefer to be a voice, along the lines of Morgan Freeman, but I'm sticking with what I have.
Wouldn't it be great if you could, they could have Morgan Freeman on screen and have you voice him?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. I do have a unique voice. It's not very deep or low, or not very high or squeaky, but it's unique, and it's landed me some interesting voice roles, I must say.
It's your own voice, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a voice actor, you can go lower or higher, and you can go through all the different sounds with your voice. But it's interesting.
Well, you've done a lot of interviews, and I know you had mentioned to me last night when we chatted, Ed Abner. Of course, I've done a tribute to Mary Tyler Moore on here through Jeffrey Mark, who I know you've had on your show as well. Talk about chatting with Ed Abner.
Ed Asner, he was very nice. He, is an older actor. He's been around for quite a while and still acting and still kicking. And he was very nice and talked about his career. And he's the president of the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, and he talked a little bit about that. And that Mary Tyler Moore, and said, she was wonderful to work with, and other people he's worked with, like Betty White and Ted Knight, and talked about his upcoming, he's doing a theater production now. I cannot remember the name of it, but he's still it's a theater production, a one-man show, and so he's still doing that, and he does other stuff. He was saying he has a few Christmas specials coming up, the Hallmark or Lifetime Christmas specials, and he has done a few of those, and he was very nice, and he said he was very flattered that I asked to interview him, and he was very proud of me for doing my work, and very nice. And I talked to him by email every so often. Yesterday was his birthday, matter of fact. He turned 90, and I emailed him, wished him a happy birthday. And, so, yeah, he was very nice, and all the actors I've interviewed, most of them I pretty much stay in contact with.
Same here. Yeah. Well, Jeffrey Mark is a great guy. He's come on, and boy, that guy's extraordinary. He come on and did a tribute to Lucille Ball, whom he's had a great connection with the people of that show, and he come on to talk about Ella Fitzgerald and then Mary Tyler Moore. I'm going to reach out and have him on next year just to talk about himself, because I need to really get into him and his story. He's an interesting guy, always supportive of me. Talk about your encounters with him.
Oh, Jeffrey, he was very nice, and I talked to him, about his career and his life, and he got into some of the what you said about Mary Tyler Moore and Lucille Ball.
Mm-hmm.
He was very nice, and I said I would like to interview him again because he has a lot of good stories.
Yes, he does.
And, he said, he would love to come back on and talk to me again. And I said, wonderful. And then I stayed in touch with him, and he was very nice, very funny, very witty.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I like interviews like that, you can get a good, strong connection and talk. I enjoy interviews like that.
Yeah, he has got a lot of stories, and I find Jeffrey Mark, he's still in touch with me, and I always look forward to chatting with him because I can just sit back and just listen to him talk about these people, and there's just no end to his knowledge of the business and the peoples he's encountered. So he's great that way. Who else have you've had on your show?
Quite a few, not really. I really hate to say, big names versus lesser known names versus celebrities, but I've interviewed another famous actress. I don't know if you ever heard of her, Joan Van Ark. She did the TV show Knots Landing in Dallas.
Okay.
She was very nice, and talked about her career and upcoming projects she's involved in. And another good one was a veteran character actor, Emmett Walsh. He did a movie back in the day, Blood Simple by the Coen brothers.
Oh, how did you get hold of him?
I contacted his agent, Cynthia Snyder,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked back and forth, and people think my interviews, I get them, just like that, but it takes a long time. Not all of them, but sometimes I've had interviews, the process of interviews take almost a year, talking back and forth and setting stuff up.
I've had some that's gone as long as 2 years, but I always tell people to be patient and persistent,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm persistent. I had a friend tell me, he's in the radio business, he gave me a funny piece of advice. He said, there's two things the people can do, if you want to interview them. You can be persistent. They'll either have two responses of your persistence. They'll either say yes, or they'll call the police on you if you're being too persistent. And he said, just try to get them to say yes. You don't want the police calling on you. And I've never had that happen to me. I've always had them say yes, and I hope that remains the case.
I've never had the police called on me neither, but I always tell people, if they say yes initially, but want to do it at a specific time, I always say message about once a month, like I said, I had one actress that took me 2 years, and she said yes initially, and she just, her schedule wasn't aligning, but we eventually got the interview. And I always tell people, another thing I tell people is don't expect them at a certain time. I had somebody say that they wanted to get in touch with an actress I'd interviewed several times, and they wanted her for October, and I said, look, get her when she's ready. Don't pigeonhole them into a specific time, because that could drive them away. Be persistent, but be polite, and if they can't do it right now, say thank you so much for the response. Like I had somebody who, the actress wasn't doing interviews right now, so you just reply and you say, well, I appreciate that. I thank you for the response. I might reach out later. And that gets you a better response than just throwing your hands up and getting angry about it. So those are advice I give people. Be persistent, but be polite. And there's always lots of people to interview, like you could reach out to more than one person at once, and they just schedule more than one on different days. And so that can keep you busy as well.
Oh, yeah. I used to... Usually my schedule to interview, I used to interview 3 people a week. It was 3 days a week. It was usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and, like you said, be polite, but be persistent. And, you don't want to push a certain schedule. You have to be flexible and considerate of the other person's schedule. It's not all about you when you're interviewing people. It's not all about you. It's because you're now getting another person involved in the interview process, and you have to be considerate of their needs and their schedule. So, be polite is very important.
Talk about Emmett Wells. I mean, he's done a string of movies. Blood Simple. He's in Blade Runner, The Jerk, Youth in Revolt. So many things that he was in. Talk about chatting with him.
He was very nice, very down to earth, and he talked about his career. He said he started in the theater. Mm-hmm. He had some challenges as well. Which I didn't know. He was saying he's deaf in his left ear, so he can't hear out of his left ear at all. And he said that was a challenge because who would want a deaf actor, and he wanted to do Shakespeare and all the unique theater, and he said that he couldn't really do that, so he pursued other ventures in acting and into television and film. And like you said, he's done a lot of good movies, Blood Simple, Blade Runner, The Jerk, all the other good movies. He's done a lot, and he was very nice. He talked about his career and gave advice to people who wanted to be an actor. He said, if you have to ask, should I become an actor? Then don't do it. You shouldn't have to ask that question if you want to be an actor. You shouldn't even have to ask that. You have to be determined, and if you want to put your mind straight to that, you can be an actor. And then there's many pieces of advice I've got. This is very important. I've interviewed over 150 people, and each one of them has a different piece of advice. You never get the same piece of advice, which is very interesting, and you always learn. You never stop learning, and there's always room to learn. And so it's very interesting, and it's a very acting is very broad spectrum. There's so many things you can do.
Yes. Anybody else that you've interviewed that you want to bring up? I'm very curious here.
Yeah, I've had a few. Let's see. I am a singer. He was part of the band called the Mystics. It was an older group back in the day. It's classic music. His name's George Galfo.
Okay.
He's part of the Mystics, and he was very nice. And I played one of the songs that his band did back in the day. Very nice, and he's still performing with the band, and a few others, a few voice actors, and a few Canadian actors as well, and a few Canadian actors. Let's see, I interviewed an actor named Jay Brasso. I don't know if you're familiar with that name, but it's a Canadian actor. He's done a lot of voiceover work and film work, and he was very nice. And I've interviewed a lot of other actors, not just in America, but around the world. I've had some in England, Australia, Canada, Mexico. So yeah, I'm not limited to just one. I'm all over the place. That's very interesting.
Well,
busy.
It sounds like you have a lot of fun with it, and it keeps you busy. I was going to mention if you had any charities that you're involved in. I'm sure you're involved with autism in some way or another.
Yeah, I'm not really, I always, on my radio show, I give shout outs to different foundations and charities because I want to help out with the things. I really can't do a lot physically, but Autism Speaks, I'm a big fan of, because they've done a lot, and other, I'm going to interview someone. He has this foundation. It's called Heroes for Autism. It's Heroes and the number 4, then Autism. His name's Hal Bray, and he has that foundation, and it does a lot with people with autism. And I have another friend I'm going to interview who's associated with that organization, who has autism. He's an artist. His name's Joey Fry.
Okay.
And, so yeah, I'm connected with a few organizations, and it keeps me busy, And I spread the word to volunteer, So I like to help out. As I said, I really do a lot physically due to some other health issues, but there's always the power of speech, so word gets around. So that's very important.
Absolutely. Plug your YouTube channel on here.
It's just type in Trey Olds or Trey Olds Radio, and the channel will pop up with all the interviews. And another good way to find other stuff I've done and projects I'm working on is Facebook. Just type in Trey Olds, and I have another Facebook page. It's the Trey Olds Radio Show, and I don't have a website. I need to do that one day. People say, get a website. It'd be much easier. And probably one day I'll get around to it. But Facebook and YouTube is the main source to find me. And the show is streamed on Pandora and iHeartRadio and Spotify and iTunes. It's all over, and it's constantly growing, and so I'm having fun with it, and it keeps me busy, and I really never get tired of it. I mean, you get bored, you get tired, but you never quit from it. But, you know, there's always spells in life where I need to take a break for a little bit or so have you, but never walk away completely. Always come back to it.
Absolutely. Well, how many interviews you get scheduled for next year? You mentioned that you got some lined up.
Yeah, I have a few. Some in December, you know, before the holiday, and then, you know, starting in 2020, I have in December actress Marion Ross. She plays the mom on Happy Days.
Okay.
What was his name? Ron Howard.
Yep.
You know, the famous director. And Henry Winkler. And, but yeah, I'll have her. And next year, in January 2020, I'll have two singers from the band from the Fifth Dimension, Billy Davis Jr. and Marilyn McCoo.
Okay.
And another actress, Dee Wallace.
Dee Wallace, I've had her on the show.
Oh, yeah. She's nice. I haven't talked to her, but I've seen interviews of her, and she sounds like a very nice person. So I'm looking forward to interviewing her. I'm looking forward to that.
I had her on in 2015, and I met her at Horrorama last year, and she was a delight. And she's actually in a film that I'm a co-producer on called 13 Fanboy. So I have a few connections with Dee Wallace.
Yeah, it's good to have the connections, you know, the interview business. You meet different kind of people, and some you kind of stick with, and they get you more work or get your name out there. And so it's always good to become acquaintances and friends with all these actors and stuff. And, you know, as I said, connections, that's great.
Well, you'll love Dee. Dee's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else you want to plug before we close off?
No, not really. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I just do the radio show, and occasionally I'll have some voiceover work. I used to do a lot of theater work, stage acting, but that's kind of dimmed down lately. And but hey, you know, I have other stuff, and as long as I keep working, you know, I'll be happy. You know, if theater, stage stuff dims down, I can always go to the radio or voiceover stuff. So there's always different things, different platforms I can hop on to. So it's a fun, it's been a fun venture for me. It's been very entertaining, but also challenging. But I'm always up for a challenge.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I appreciate you reaching out to me. You know, I was quite flattered when you had asked me if I wanted to interview you, and you told me your story, and I was like, you know, I've been given this opportunity to do this, and I certainly am not going to turn away somebody else who wishes to do so. And I was very happy to hear your story, and happy that that despite your physical conditions, you're really combating that. You're keeping a very positive attitude, and you're doing what you enjoy, like through either DJing, radio, or interviewing on your podcast. You've got a lot of avenues that you can escape to, and I think it's formed a very healthy attitude in yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be positive. You know, it's never good to be negative because it affects your life, it affects your work, your passions, it affects people around you. You know, so it's key to stay positive and find things you're passionate for and do something. And you know, anybody, people with autism or without autism, they have a special gift inside them. You know, so they can achieve anything. You know, just put your mind to it and you can do it.
Well, before I let you go, would you like to do a plug for my show?
This is Trey Olds, and You are listening to Python's Paradise with Python, Hyena, and Gilbert.
Thank you so much, Trey. That was great. I didn't even have to tell you what to say. But
I'm pretty quick about them. I can get used to certain things. So it's been fun, Greg. Thank you very much for interviewing me. And good luck with your podcast, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, and God bless you too. And like I said, stay in touch. We're connected on Facebook, and I keep my updates coming, so keep tuning in. You have yourself a very wonderful day, and keep positive and keep doing what you're doing. You're great at it.
Thank you very much, Greg. You do the same. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.